The ASEAN Economic Community, a major step forward for Southeast Asia, a single market of 600 million people. For entrepreneurs and the private sector, that should spell opportunity. But in such a diverse region where some of the governments control much of the business, the private sector can sometimes find it hard to flourish. Hello, I'm Sherry Ann. Welcome to the Bloomberg ASEAN Business Summit as we take a deeper look at the road ahead for the region's private sector and its entrepreneurs.
Over 2 days, more than 350 speakers and delegates gathered here in the Thai capital to discuss the challenges and what the ASEAN Economic Community could mean for them. Leaders from government and business at the start of a new single market journey. We put some of the key questions to 3 of the region's brightest entrepreneurs. His friends call him the accidental billionaire. From fixing scooters at 13 to his first billion at 26. Arun Pudur is the founder and president of Cellframe. Chatri Situtong is a martial artist turned multimillionaire based in Singapore with interests in sport, media, real estate, and technology. His flagship company, One Championship, broadcasts and promotes fight events across the globe. And Max Bittner is CEO and founder of Lazada, Southeast Asia's fastest-growing online department store. An expert in e-commerce and in the challenges of doing business in such a diverse and fast-growing region.
It's best to get started with something that most people that look at you will be asking themselves. Is there such a thing as a formula to entrepreneurial success? I know, for example, Arun, you had a very unconventional story. You started your business, fixing scooters at the age of 13. Now you're into everything. You've just recently topped the list of the wealthiest person in Asia under the age of 40. Is there such a thing as a principle for your investments?
Yeah, first things first, choose your parents. Okay? You do that, everything else falls in place. And then by God's grace, you get a good partner for life. You're set for life. But you talk about formula in success is pretty much different for different people. Okay? I come from a background wherein we didn't have a requirement to, do a job, but the zeal to solve problems. Because end of the day, you need to get up. You need to wake up. You need to do something that you want to achieve. And when I began my career at the age of 13, like you mentioned, I thought, okay, if I can make $10,000, I can retire. I don't have to do anything. Then it becomes $1 million, then it becomes $1 billion, then it becomes $10 billion. So you need to have something that you would like to get up and solve. And once you find your passion, what you want to achieve, it keeps moving on. There is no goals. People who say, okay, I'd reach this, I'd exit. I've never seen an entrepreneur who says, once I reach $1 billion, I want to retire. Never happens.
No, and talking about passion, especially for you, Chatri, I mean, you come from a background where you are a fighter for Muay Thai, and that is how you had your successful business, but that's not how you got started. You have a very interesting sort of rags to riches tale. What drives you? Because I've heard you talk about the unbreakable warrior spirit. Is that the principle for investment?
I think first what drives an entrepreneur, I think, is, what I call a true entrepreneur, is someone who wants to change the world for the better. I think money and success and all that other stuff is a byproduct. If you are able to add value to the world, make people's lives better, make a positive impact, and then you reap economic reward. So I think it's what drives an entrepreneur. I think money is the weakest form of warrior spirit, if you will. If you're in a business just for money, you will quit the times when they're difficult times. But if you're genuinely there because you want to solve the problem, you want to change the world, you want to help people, you want to make a positive impact, then that's the fire that keeps you going, no matter how tough things get.
Now, listening to both of you, it seems that you have a very focused way of doing business. And now I've talked to you, Max, just before we got on stage. And you are already in 6 different countries. But when you got into them, what were you looking at? Because you were telling me we just did it so fast.
Yeah, I think overall, for me, entrepreneurship is, there being an opportunity, whether it's to make people happy, whether it's to make money. I think it's each person's decision, whatever drives their boat. and then kind of seeing that opportunity and then just going for it and then working hard enough to succeed. That's, for me, what it takes. And I think if you look at kind of my story, I kind of had some of the more boring kind of consulting and banking jobs, and I don't want to offend anyone. And the main reason I didn't want to do that anymore because I wanted to wear red trainers in a panel like this. And the way we went about coming to this is that we just said, listen, we see e-commerce as such a big changer in the way that people shop in markets in the developed world, but we see that the impact of that is even more developed or even more big in emerging markets where offline retail is just not as developed. And I think we just saw the opportunity, and we saw that the gold rush towards e-commerce was so big that we didn't really have the time to prioritize one market versus the other. So we said, let's just start with all of them at the same time.
And your business is being compared now to the Amazon of Southeast Asia. But it seems to me that a lot of the businesses, especially the ones you're in, is a sort of a localized version of a Western idea or something that started in the West. Max, how do you see entrepreneurship? Is that the way to succeed here in Asia?
Journalists very often want to associate a business model or a new business model in a new market with something they know somewhere else. So I think it's largely you guys making it easy for themselves.
How do you see yourself then?
I see myself as providing a service where I connect merchants and consumers, and technology just happens to be the best enabler for me to do that. And if you want to go down that route and compare yourself to the benchmarks in the Western world, and to be honest, for us, the Western world is probably not the best benchmark. So we look much more towards China because the intrinsics of our markets, being the purchasing power of the population, being the lack of infrastructure, being the undersupply of offline retail in the region, the similarities are much more towards an India or China.
Chatri, Ultimate Fighting Championship, that's a business model that you are thinking of?
I wouldn't say I'm copying a business model from abroad. I think that when I started One Championship, I looked around the world and I said, look, every region of the world has a multi-billion-dollar sports property. So if you look at North America, you have NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball. You go to Europe, you have Formula One, you have EPL. And these companies are worth $15, $20 billion. You come to Asia, there's nothing. Literally, we watch cricket, which we import, or we watch soccer. And I said, why can't there be an Asian multi-billion-dollar sports property? And 4 years later, we've become the largest in history. So that's a testament to when you have a wide open market and you're adding true value to the world, good things can happen.
Arun, then you had to go head-to-head against Microsoft.
I never considered Microsoft as a competitor. It's like the market is so huge. See, when I began in 2006, I had $0 of sales. Now we're doing close to $10 billion in sales in just software alone. But looking at competitors is basically undervaluing yourself. Never compete with something that exists. To give an example, Cellframe did that. We went to the market when people called me only one thing constantly: crazy. Do you want to lose your shirt, by going against a giant? Nobody is a giant. Anybody can be taken out. Okay? I'm a sitting example. A guy who was making, $1 a day when I was in school, to today, I have an asset base of $70 billion with zero debt. That's possible. There's no company that you can't beat. There's no entrepreneur you can't take out. Don't look at the end result. That's what I will tell everybody. Just don't look at, now today is worth, billions of dollars. No, we all began by making that first dollar. And I truly believe when you can convince somebody to give you $1, to convince them to give you $100 billion, there's no difference. It's the same human logic. End of the day, you're still doing business with people. I mean, before the robots take over, okay? Until then, at least you're doing with people. It's the same.
The first time you asked for $1 was to your mom, wasn't it? And you didn't even have to, financially, there wasn't a necessity for you to start your own business at the age of 13. What motivated you into starting all of this?
It's, I think, the uncontrollable desire to solve problems or challenges that come in. And once, it's just like, you're high. The success, whatever it is, it can be as simple as fixing a spark plug in a bike or fixing a major problem between a government and another. It's nothing much different. Always look at the problem in a very simplified fashion, no matter how big the problem looks like. Bottom line is two people who want to get along. So business is pretty much the same, if you break it down the DNA. So even if today recently we closed a $17 billion platinum mine in South Africa, it took us less than 3 months' time. There is no major discussions or whatever. It's just understanding. When you know what the other partner wants and you treat them as equal, that is what flipped our business. We give away 40-30% of our business instead of just giving them a commission.
What's interesting for me is that you're so invested in your natural resources when we have all these commodities drought. Basically doing the opposite of what everyone is doing. Is that what entrepreneurship should be about?
See, when there is a scare, people run. When people run, you have the opportunity to buy everything for nothing. Okay? So when people are in fear, I get inspired. Okay? Nothing stays where it is. Okay? It will go up. What goes down has to go up, and it will. You just need to have a long-term view. It can be a year, it can be a day, it can be 10 years. You have, coming from a technology business, I can say that, today you talk about, people are talking about Uber. Uber is the largest taxi company in the world with no taxis. If I had come and told you, oh, Shirin, you need to invest in, Uber, it's going to be a $60 billion company in 5 years' time, but I'm not going to have any taxis or Airbnb. It's never going to happen, but today, that's a reality. That's in every business.
Chatri, you also have investments. It's not only your one championship, you have investments basically everywhere. Is that also your approach?
No, I think that I just want to do what's fun. So for me, if I feel like I'm adding value to the world, if I feel like I'm changing, making a positive impact on people's lives, then I just want to do it for fun. That's what, for me, drives me. In my younger career, when I was younger, in my 20s, I was willing to sacrifice fun for economic gain. But after a while, you're just like, are you going to be on this treadmill for the rest of your life where, you don't want to go to work and you got to go and, I think entrepreneurs are pulled by their heart. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are pulled by their heart. They can't wait to wake up the next morning and rush off to work. They don't want to go to bed at night because they love what they do so much. And I think that's the way I wanted to live my life. So.
Breaking bones is fun. That's.
Max, do you feel that way too?
Yeah, I think I've gotten extremely lucky to do what I do. But I also realized that I took the chance when I had it. And I think what's fascinating, building a new company in kind of a very ambiguous environment, in an ambiguous industry is incredible how fast things change. So I think, while you get, some people, you get hooked on the success, to be honest, I get hooked by all the problems that I have every day. I've never managed to keep a schedule past 11 a.m. any day because there's so many problems which happen across the 6 markets, 7,000 people, the amount of problems which come up, and you kind of start enjoying solving those problems.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, because, end of the day, everything is about the zeal to solve problems. Is accurate about that. That's what you get excited about, because why I've diversified into 20 different verticals. People say the traditional companies are going to technology, but I went from technology into traditional businesses, okay? We built a $70 billion asset base, the minute we switched from technology to, traditional businesses. The reason why we like to do, like Max said that, the zeal to solve problems. Because every day you want something new to, solve, something new to learn. Because constantly you need to fail in order to become successful. The biggest fear why people don't want to get into business is because they don't want to fail.
No, exactly, and that's one point I want to get into very soon. But I just want to follow up on Max. When you say, that you still have to solve problems, Lazada has grown exponentially in the past few years. But at the same time, because you're making larger investments, you have also widened your losses. How do you stick with something before getting out? Although you never had to face that problem, we are still talking about entrepreneurs and people who want to get into a business. When do you say, I'm done?
I think you need to have a clear view where the business is today, where the business is in the medium term, and where the business is in the long term. If you're going to, invest without having a view where you should be in the medium to long term, you're going to have a very tough time. So, you need to set yourself some sort of guidelines that you want to stick to keep the discipline that you have, but much more importantly, to also prioritize where you spend your time and where you spend your money. And I think that's, the key for me would be to decide to walk away from something if I say, the opportunity cost, not only of the money I have, but also my time and my focus is too high, and I'd rather spend it somewhere else. And I think if I just say, listen, I can do something else and be better and more successful at it, then I'll just go to that. Yeah.
Chatri, I mean, you have this very interesting life where your family basically went bankrupt. Your mother had to live at your college dorm for some time in order for your family to get back on your feet. I would think if that was my case, I don't want to take any risks. I want a very stable, secure job. And yet you went the other way around. You moved to Silicon Valley. How has that experience changed you?
Yeah, so when I was in school, and I started my first company when I was 27, and it was an internet software company in Silicon Valley. And yeah, my mom was going to shoot me because I was in school, and the reason I was in school was to get a good job so that I could work for a good company, so that I could get my family out of, they were basically homeless, and then my younger brother was going to go to university, so as the oldest son, I was responsible for the family. And so yeah, my mom was screaming and yelling at me to take a safe job at that time, and I ended up starting a company.
I can imagine, like any parent.
Yeah. So I think when you get something to pull you, your heart's pulling you in a direction, you can't help it. It's like if you have a woman you love, a girlfriend you love, and your parents say, no, don't marry her. If your heart's, if your heart's going in a direction, you gotta go.
I wanted to be a pilot, fighter pilot. I mean, that was an exception, but typically when you are being fed in the spoon, your mother and father says, oh, you need to be a doctor, you need to be an engineer or a banker. And that's the way we are told. Nobody comes out and says, I want to be a billionaire, Mom. Why is that? Because it's super cool. I fly private jets, I own money, I can buy anything I want. Why people are not interested to do that? Because we also begin the same fashion. I mean, I have nothing against people who work, 9 to 5, but it's basically a jail sentence, You need to be there on time, you need to do this, you can't do that. Why you want to live a life like that?
In Asia, we do lack a sort of institutional support that allows you to fail numerous times without becoming, homeless or not having a second chance.
No, that's right. I mean, see, the policy changes are still happening. Let's say, for example, U.S. bankruptcy is a tool. You can keep declaring you're bankrupt. I mean, not to name names, some of the guys we say you're fired. That's the guy who keeps getting bankrupt 15, 20 times in his career just because he can take the money and walk away from the business. But in Asia, I mean, let's say, for example, Malaysia. Once you're bankrupt for life. You can't even travel. You're basically jailed within the country. So those laws have to change. If you want people to be innovative, they spend so much money trying to build innovation, but if you don't make the fundamental changes for people to take risk, and the banks to say, I like your idea, here is my money. Banks still say in Asia, show me a balance sheet. That's the challenge that's still there in Asia.
Max, do you see things changing in Asia, in some countries?
I don't particularly agree to the fact that in Asia you don't have entrepreneurship culture. I see it every day. I see, everywhere on the street in Bangkok or in Jakarta, I see lots of entrepreneurs. Just because it's not in Silicon Valley and not a billion-dollar company doesn't mean you're not an entrepreneur. I think that's my first objective of that. I think the second one is, of course, entrepreneurship comes with opportunity. And I think what we've seen over the last 3-4 years since we arrived, especially in the tech scene in Southeast Asia, there's huge amount of entrepreneurs everywhere. I have a lot of entrepreneurs working for us. Some of them are very entrepreneurial within our company. Some of them want to leave the company and start their own thing. So I think the DNA is there. I think it's more of a matter of opportunity and getting some sort of financial support to start your first idea. So it's the access to capital in some sort of way.
Now we just have a couple of minutes left, and I just want to address one question for all of you. Max, how much does pedigree matter? Because I know that you, Chatri, you come from banking backgrounds. In order to be successful, how important is it?
I don't think it matters with regards to you being good at your job. I think it does help you doors initially, however. So I think it's the ability to jump 1 or 2 hurdles. Having that background has helped me to get some credibility. But has it helped me be better at my job? Not at all.
Chatrick.
Yeah, I agree. I always tell my team, we hire for PhDs only, not for CVs. Poor, hungry, and determined. I'd rather have somebody who has a lot of fire in their belly than, a piece of paper that said, oh, I went to Harvard, I went to Stanford, whatever. That means nothing. In real life, as an entrepreneur, how can you hustle? How hard are you willing to fight for your dreams? Are you willing to conquer every single obstacle in your way? Are you a magic maker? Can you make things happen? Those are much more important attributes to me than, where did you go to school? What was your last company you worked at? That means nothing.
Arun, fixing scooters, breeding dogs. Is that the way?
No, it's the way, it happened. I'm a living proof of that. Like I mentioned, when suddenly on the news they were talking about being the richest guy or the 10th richest in the world, my mother called me and said, we have a chai wala for a prime minister. It's a guy who was selling tea, and a garage wala now a billionaire. So if this can happen, anybody can do that. You don't need qualification. I very much agree. Because the mindset is changing. As I said, Bangalore now has about 50,000 startups, okay? And every day now, traditional businesses are investing into it. And the same fashion where Modi, or Modinomics or whatever the name they want to give, one person can make a difference. The positive, the way that you think. And the whole idea of me coming today was to see that one person's life can change. Because if we are seated here, each one of us have different stories, but we all began very, very, very small, and we were non-existent when we began. And you can achieve anything if you have a clear vision.
So those were some of the insights of 3 entrepreneurs who know what it takes to be a success in ASEAN. There will be challenges and difficulties in doing business, but what's not in doubt, the single market of the ASEAN economic community is opening new doors and a new future. From Bangkok, this has been the second Bloomberg ASEAN Business Summit. I'm Sherry Ann. Thanks for watching.